Single moms are
resilient,
phenomenal,
supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
everything.
Single Mom Defined rewrites the narrative about Black single mothers and creates supportive spaces for all single moms. Tune in as we talk about everything from work and relationships to self-care and co-parenting. Welcome to the Single Mom Defined podcast.
Hey mamas, I'm Heather, founder of Single Mom Defined. Welcome to our podcast. Oftentimes, moms-to-be celebrate their pregnancy with glamorous photo shoots, over-the-top gender reveals, and even huge baby showers. What should be a joyous time in a woman's life is often a stressful season in a single mom's life. Perhaps the father wants her to get an abortion. Perhaps the family doesn't want her to have a child. Or maybe the mom doesn't prioritize a party because she doesn't have a budget. This episode will explore how society can stop shaming single mothers and start supporting them. Joining me to talk about their pregnancy experiences and give tips on how to push past a painful past and celebrate a hope-filled future are Kelli and Rikell. Hey mamas, let's start by sharing one word to describe what you went through when you heard that you were pregnant.
For me, it would be shame.
For me, it would be denial.
Those are really, really powerful words because on the flip side, oftentimes married moms, it's like joy, a blessing. There's like all these positive words because it's something that's planned. But, as we learn, just because something's not planned doesn't mean that these unexpected things don't lead to those positive words. So I was saddened not because of the pregnancy, but rather the relationship. I had gotten pregnant on a trip to Florida that we took trying to save our relationship. We went to the Fountain of Youth and I came back with a youth. You know how sometimes people come back with a souvenir like a t-shirt? I came back with a baby.
You say, I'm going to create the fountain.
Right. What was crazy, y'all, was like I knew upon conception, like I'm an empath. I think I'm just an intuitive person. Like I immediately knew. And in part because my birth control had ran out. I hadn't been on birth control my whole life. I had lived overseas when I was dating my daughter's dad, moved to DC and decided because we had free healthcare in the Cayman Islands. So I got like a couple months of the ring. And so it was running out and I was like, man, the ring's running out. Like I was just off like a day. So it was like, but God, because it was like only like a day or two that I missed it. So I immediately knew that I was pregnant when we got back to DC. I don't know, did you guys have any like physical signs? I know some people who can be pregnant like 6 months and don't know. Did you guys have physical signs?
I had physical signs, but I didn't know what it was. I can remember being at a wedding and having this pain. I'm like, what is happening to me? And, later on, I was like, oh, that was probably conception happening. But it was like the most unusual pain that I had ever felt before. I was like, I don't know what this is. I just remember it happening and then I could remember I used to drink tequila sunrises and I could remember being at the bar drinking my tequila sunrise. I'm like, ooh, this is nasty.
Right. I was drinking. We went on a double date and back in the day, I used to be able to throw them back. And I just had like a stomach pain. And I'm like, is this the alcohol? So we stopped at the store. I bought a pregnancy test. He wanted me to wait. And I snuck off to a bathroom and took the test, like at the party, y'all. And he was outside, like, what's going on? What's taking so long? And so it was positive. I burst out crying. And, when I think about it, I didn't cry because I didn't want to become a mother. I cried because I didn't want to become a single mother. And he was outside knocking on the door, wanting to know what was wrong when in fact, like you should already know what's wrong. Our our relationship was in the toilet. Getting pregnant kind of pushed it further down the drain. And at that time, I had moved out of the house. I got my own place. When we went on that vacation, that was kind of like, one last try at trying to make things work, but it wasn't enough to repair the relationship because he would want me to kind of like go along to get along. And that's not, y'all know, that's not my personality. And so told him to go back to the ex-girlfriend who he later married, right? When my daughter turned 1, like the weekend of her birthday. But she's an amazing stepmom. But I just didn't think we were a good match. And he hinted about getting an abortion.
So of course he wanted you to get an abortion. I mean, a lot of men just immediately, that's their first go to is abortion. Go get an abortion, babe. And it's so easy to say because it's not you going on that table. You know what I mean? Opening up your legs in front of people you don't even know. You know what I mean? The whole thing is absolutely embarrassing. And I feel like because abortion is so thrown out there, that it traumatizes women immediately before they even can have a great experience of being pregnant. I remember my child's father saying that. First, he said it wasn't his. That was the first thing he said, even though he knows that,
Right.
I'm not even, so, but he said it wasn't his. And then he said, get an abortion.
Yeah.
And I just thought to myself, how selfless, selfish can you be to say that to somebody? What I couldn't even absorb that I was pregnant. I couldn't even
Right.
have that.
It's like we have been together for 3 years. I'm like, who is this person?
Yeah,
Right.
I've
It's
known
just so easy
mine
for them to
since I
throw
was
it out
a kid.
there.
We ate free lunch together. We hooped on the same basketball team. So this ain't nobody I just popped up with. Like, so
Yeah.
to hear that, it hurt me. And like I said, just saying to go have an abortion, not knowing what that takes, not knowing the after effects of it, like the mental piece that you actually killed a child.
It's like you don't have a choice in it. Like, where's my voice? Where's my choice? It's just another way to suppress the voice of, it's another way to suppress a Black woman's voice. And, they don't even realize that that's what they're doing, which is another part of the trauma that we experience as Black women. Not only the trauma of you telling me to go get the abortion, me having to live through the experience of getting the abortion, but all the triggering things that happens after. So for a man, like, they don't have to live through that emotional experience. It's like, okay, you live to see another day, but now I live to see another day with this experience, with this trauma that has happened to me.
Or because you think that you're handing me 650. Oh, well, I got it. I got the abortion money. You think because you handed me 650, you're doing your due diligence. No, bruh.
It's that easy. Like, I'm taking Tylenol. No, bro, this ain't Tylenol.
It's not like we don't know people who have gotten abortions, right? I have friends, family members, and it's not to say what's right or wrong, but like that shouldn't be your immediate response when you got a positive pregnancy, when you got those 2 lines. I haven't taken a test in so long. I think it's 2 lines, right? Like that shouldn't be the first thing you say, even if that's something that you think, even if that's something that you would consider. So, I mean, obviously, didn't get an abortion. It wasn't a good situation, but at first we like stuck it out. We stayed together. We went to Pittsburgh to tell my parents. My dad was really excited. My mom was devastated because we weren't married. I was in my 30s. We had talked about before that I had a degree, I had a job, I had all these things, but she kind of pushed the marriage thing. We obviously didn't get married and broke up a couple months later. So I felt like robbed of the experience of celebrating that positive pregnancy test. I don't have the maternity photos. I don't have, that experience. We were going to have a baby shower at his place in DC, but he got mad, shut that down. So it's like,
Wow.
I felt like for a long time I wanted to get pregnant again by somebody who like was my husband or somebody that supported it. So what was your story, Kelli, when you found out, when you looked at that pregnancy test and saw that it was positive? What was your story, your reaction?
Okay. So when I took my pregnancy test and it came back positive, again, I was shocked. I was shamed because I'm a pastor's daughter too, so that's major.
Right.
Yeah, so that was super major for me. And then the guy who was my best friend, I mean, he wasn't real fond of, nobody was really fond of him. So, I mean, I was scared, I was ashamed. And then again, when I went to him and I told him, the first thing he said, it wasn't mine. So that's what I'm saying. Like, it just seems like when women get pregnant, it's always like, you're degrading me now. Like, now it's not yours. Like, we've been messing around for 5 years and now it's not
Right.
yours.
Right.
And then now you want, and then
Like,
now that
bruh.
it's not yours, you want to get an abortion.
Right. But Kelli,
So
Kelli, what's crazy? You mentioned that you're a pastor's daughter. In the Bible, like motherhood was celebrated. Like that was a thing. Like if you couldn't get pregnant, that was an issue.
that's
Like
yeah,
woe unto
Yeah.
you. Motherhood was like
Think
the
about
top.
Sarah.
That was the top title.
that is true. And it's crazy how, to me, society has shaped because it's, like I said, I only deal with black men. So when I'm talking about them. It has shaped the mind frame of our men and how they view pregnancy, how they view children. And that a lot of times has a lot to do with our history. You know what I mean? So I feel like, our men, one of these days, our men are going to have to tap in to the effects of slavery and how it shaped them. Like, even seeing women pregnant is not a joyous thing to them because they could never raise their children, or they had to think about them being sold, or them being sold, or their children's being killed. So it's like, one day they're going to have to tap into that and see again how it trickled down on us.
Post-traumatic slave syndrome.
Yeah, it's a real thing.
What about your story, Raquel?
So I was in denial. I had missed my period, went 10 days, and I had taken a dollar store test. So when the dollar store test came back positive, I was like, oh, this is just a cheap dollar store test. This thing ain't real.
It's from the dollar store. Let me go to CVS or Walgreens.
Those are the best tests. And I know there's a meme out there saying that you shouldn't have kids if you get a dollar store test, but those are the best tests. I just want to let people know. Those are the dollar.
So I can remember I went to Walmart and I had bought a clear blue easy, the one that say pregnant, not pregnant. So
Right.
I was
Make it
buying,
very clear. Because I'm like, one line, two lines. What's that mean?
yeah, I was buying
Expensive.
the test and my mom walked up on me. I was like, oh god dang, of all places, like how did you just walk up on me in Walmart? So I hurry up and hit it.
Oh, y'all didn't
And
go to the store together?
no, we didn't go to the store together. She walked up on me and I thought she saw it. She didn't see it. So I went to Walmart in the bathroom and took the test, and that test came back pregnant. I was like, oh man. So I was still in denial, even though I had confirmation that I was pregnant. And I had told him, I can remember it was his birthday, came over my house.
Here's your gift. Surprise.
Yeah, there you go. Happy birthday. You're having a baby. So I laugh now, but that was a horrible moment for me, telling him
Right.
that. And the
Hallmark
first thing
don't
he
get those
said,
cards.
yeah. And the first thing he gonna say, well, what you gonna do? And I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do? And he's like, oh, when you gonna get rid of it? I'm like, no, I'm not. I don't. And then I was like, I thought about it, like, and I said, okay, yeah, I'll go ahead and do it. And the power of prayer and the power of getting that prayer answered. Um, so, and that's what happened. And I could, And Kelly, you said, how you talked about him saying that it wasn't his child. I didn't get that during pregnancy, but I could remember when I told him when I was giving birth, because I had a high risk pregnancy. The whole pregnancy, I was stressed out. I could remember going to the doctors. Um, After 25 weeks, I was getting stress tests 2 times a week, sonograms once a month. The beauty of that
Wow.
part was I got to see her grow because I saw the sonograms monthly.
Mhm.
But after I had her and I had that C-section, and he called me on the phone,
But still,
he said, "I heard you had your baby." I snapped out. I don't remember what I said, but I remember snapping out because it's not just my baby, it's our baby. And then after that, he got a picture of her and he took that picture around town, showing everybody the picture. And she was lighter and he's like darker. So he was saying, "This ain't my baby. This ain't
He
my
was on a
baby."
Maury Povich move, like how they put up the photo comparison.
Right.
Right, black women can make any
hell
color.
no, black women can have
Right.
all color babies.
So
Wow,
yeah.
wow. So
Any
when,
color.
when you were like at the hospital, that's a time when people were supposed to come and see you, bring flowers. My daughter's dad was at the hospital and had the bubblegum cigars and flowers. And I mean, he showed up for the labor, but that's a time that you should be just focused on having a healthy delivery, especially since black women have such a high risk of infant and
Right.
maternal mortality and lots of things that come along with that.
Right. Right. And it was not joyous for me at all. I was in the hospital for 5 days and he didn't show up. The day I came home from the hospital, he came to my parents' house and took the picture of her that he spread around town, which was crazy. So I was like, let's get a paternity test then. I kept asking him over and over, let's get a paternity test. We did not get a paternity test until I made him get a paternity test by taking him to child support. That was the only way we got the paternity test. It was like he had went through the stages of denial too. Like, bruh, she's here.
And, I know we've talked a little bit about the negative experiences that we had, but I just want to remind single moms, just because you're single doesn't mean you're the only person having a negative experience. Like, I have married friends that were pregnant at the same time as somebody else, like the woman outside of the marriage, the side chick was pregnant. Or, maybe they had health complications, maybe they're on the brink
Mhm.
of divorce. So we have to realize that everyone goes through something at some point in their lives. And I really think that society plays these mind games, right? It's like they make you think like, oh, if I was married, things would be better, that it would be like
Mhm.
this fairy tale, a different story. But it might be the same thing, right? So this is my story. This is a story that, my mom later bought into. She babysat my daughter, saved me lots of money. My daughter and I
Yes.
even lived with my mom and dad when I launched my business. They were super supportive. She threw a beautiful baby shower. She babysits today. My dad picks my daughter up every day. So, so that's my story. And I have
Mhm.
to accept that story and share that story and let other single moms know that like nobody has this story. Like we're all here, kind of like walking through life, and we're having testimonies along the way. So over time
Right.
I had to stop mourning the loss, like all the
Yes.
things that I thought I missed out on, and I had to start focusing on the gain. So how did I
Yes.
do that? Number one, I went to therapy. I had to stop being bitter, had to be better, because I witnessed some black single moms who were so angry. It's like, sis, like even during some of the photo shoots, it's like, sis, your kids are in college right now. Like you've carried this pain for it's like,
Mhm.
how they say don't let somebody steal your joy. Well, somebody stole your joy for 20 plus years. So I kind of look like that's not going to be me. So, when
Right.
my daughter was a baby, I went to, it was a free therapy at church. I took advantage of that. And, number two, I had to go to God. Like I handed
Yes.
all my concerns and I handed God all my concerns and frustrations. Growing up
Mm-hmm.
in a two-parent Christian household where my grandparents were married, my parents were married, like everybody married, all my friends married. Like I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
God, really? Like I'm the only one. Like it. I mean, some have since unfortunately gotten divorced, but like everybody was married. And so I had to give that
Yeah.
to God because my whole life it was drilled into me. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't wait. Like if you can do that and wait until you're in this supportive marriage to have a child. But, I was so focused on the sin and the shame when
Yes.
God's focused on like his grace and mercy, the forgiveness.
Yes.
So when I gave that to God, it was like a flood of grace. Like I got closer to God from
Mm-hmm.
becoming a single mom. He taught me about like meditation, taught me that he is my father. He is the source, not child support. And I think the third thing I did was forgive my daughter's dad. Like that was huge because for a long time, even though, you think you got over the person relationship wise, you may have moved on and dated other people, but like I was still carrying some of that pain. And it wasn't until one day, we were ordered by the court to go back and forth. He lived in a different state. So I'm in New Jersey doing a meditation, walking along the beach. And I'm like, God, like, why wouldn't I come to the beach? Like, I would drive all the way to New Jersey, turn around, come back, and stay in like Philly, King of Prussia. Just because, like, in my head, I just thought this is so unfair. Like, how is a judge making me drive even before I got child support? How you gonna make me drive all the way to New Jersey? Like, I just thought it was unfair. And it was unfair for my daughter's dad too, right? Because, he didn't have her as much as me. So I had to like let that go and push past the pain. So how did you all push past the pain and start to see the blessings and what good came from it?
I think for me, my child's father, he ended up getting indicted and he went to jail, well, to prison for a long time. And I think there is where we were able to reform and rebuild our relationship. And even though the story seems really sad, it's really not, because my child's father and I's relationship is impeccable right now. I'm in a loving relationship with a man who loves me from the top of my head to the soles of my feet. So God had his way. I just had to do my part, which was, first of all, like you said, forgive my child's father, because again, we don't know what, well, I know what his life was like, but you know what I mean? There's a lot that comes with being a father. And when you don't have a father, so I just take those things into considerations. And I made it. Like I felt like I made it through. You know what I mean? I felt like you left me for dead, but God revived me, and then karma came. You know what I mean? So it all worked together for my good. And yeah, and I would just tell any single mother or soon to be single mother to keep going. Like, don't get bitter. Just keep going, because you never know how it's going to turn full circle. Them kids that you have can elevate you to your highest point. So I mean, yeah, I had to forgive him and I had to keep pressing.
Yeah, for me, I really had to do, I guess they say soul searching. Um, I had to really forgive myself for, the way the shame that I felt, um, the situation, just really doing that hard reflection work on myself. I know one of the Bible verses that I speak about in my essay is that God is close to the brokenhearted. So, really not leaning on those things that I was told about myself. I know, like Heather, you had said that at one point that, people had said that, we're not worthy of some things and that nobody would ever want us. And that was one of the things that I was told. Like my self esteem was, it was shot. Yeah.
Oh, my self-esteem was shot. And I just want to pause you and repeat what you said. Forgive yourself. Because that brought to memory that like
Hmm.
I forgave my child's father, but I also had to forgive myself for, it's like I felt bad for getting pregnant outside of marriage, and that wasn't the plan, but like I had to first forgive myself. So I just want to pause and like
Yeah.
that's probably
Yeah.
the
Yeah, even
number
too,
one piece of
Raquel, I had
advice
to
that you could give.
chime in on your story too, but forgiving yourself too, because sometimes as women, we see smoke before the fire. There's always smoke before the fire. And sometimes we think that we can change people, or, we date potential,
Oh,
oh, well, I
yes.
see so much in brother man. No, you know what I mean? So forgive it.
Or we get to a certain age, right? It's like all my friends were getting married. And I'm like, okay, wait, God, should I be in a relationship and settle down?
Yeah, like, so just, you're right. So just, I mean, forgiving yourself for even making mistakes, or being gullible, or even being vulnerable, you know what I mean, like, for things that happen like that too.
Right, right. So that was hard. I think that self-forgiveness is so hard because you go through so many emotions of dealing with the guilt, the shame, you know, the the boxes that you have been put in. So, really getting out the box and living outside of the box that others have created for you and knowing the definition that you have created for your own self. So I had to get to that point and get away from what he had told me about myself and what I began to think about myself because of what he had said to
Mm,
me. So
right.
really getting away from that. And when I think about being brokenhearted, I think I broke my own heart because I began to believe those things about myself. So I had to really begin to mend who I was. So that self forgiveness part was really, really hard, but also, like you all have said already, to forgive that person, right? So I had to forgive him for all his foolishness that I had to deal with, from the low self esteem, from, creating a narrative that I didn't know who my child's father was, and knowing that, dog, I lost my virginity to you. So you was the only person I had been with, and you knew that I had only been with you. So
Right.
I'm
It's
just
like we
like,
gotta prove ourselves, right? It
yeah,
just seems like
yeah,
we're like
After you went
remember the
raw on me,
Scarlet
raw
Letter?
on me. Like, you went raw with no condom on, but I still gotta prove myself. Like, come on, it doesn't even make sense.
right,
You
Right. Like,
trusted
did
me
y'all
enough
skip
to go.
sex education class?
That's what I'm saying. You trust me enough to go without that, and now you checking to see if the
yeah,
baby. Like, come on, bruh. Mm.
Right,
yeah.
right. Yeah, and so how do we move from like shaming someone to celebrating the life that they're bringing into the world? Like I get that people don't want a teenager to get pregnant, that it's too soon, she's ill-equipped. But that doesn't mean that we can't surround this young person with support because you can not agree with like what happened and at the same time connect her to resources, to support systems, to an environment that's healthy for her and her baby. So how do you think we can move from a shame to support?
I think creating a culture of acceptance. If we just go to each other, like single mom defined, like you have literally followed your vision and pulled us all into this culture of acceptance. Like, hey, we got you. Let's support each other through this. How can I help you? What do you need from me? Who do you need to be connected to? So really creating that culture of acceptance and support. It's as cliche as it is, it takes a village, and it literally takes a village to help raise our children.
It does. And not only does it take a village, but also it takes a realistic mindset, right? Because it's like we are kind of raised in this fairy tale society. And even sometimes, I love the Lord, but sometimes the church is giving you all these messages and not really preparing you, right? And so, how do we get to the point that, like, it just seemed like there was an issue with having a baby outside of marriage, but we weren't addressing all the unprotected sex, all the, my daughter's dad, unlike you, Rikell, you gave your virginity story. Like that was not, I was far from a virgin. I was in my 30s. So how do we move to a point of like, like being okay with like what's in the closet, being okay that like we out here having sex with different people, but we're not okay when you have a baby, right? So how do we move from that shame to support, Kelli?
Um, I agree with Raquel. I mean, I feel like the support is needed. I also feel like being more educated. I feel like addressing our girls before they get pregnant is very, very important because I don't want to say that I want to celebrate being a single mom because I feel like that's what we do. We celebrate it to the point where it's glamorized. Like, oh, I can do it. Let me show him I can do it. But sis, this ain't what you want. Like, if it happens, then you show him.
Listen. Like you can be Sean Kelly, but like when I had an infant, it's like I wanted somebody to take out the trash. I wanted somebody to put together these toys for Christmas.
Right. And Heather, you got to think about it. You had a daughter. I'm sorry, you had a daughter at 30. You got to think about these young girls. 34. So you got to think about these young girls. Like these men are like these are little boys. You know what I mean? So I feel like educating our black girls on their body. I don't feel like we do that enough. Your body is your temple. I feel like that's very important. I feel like we need to start as single mothers. We need to start tapping into these young boys. You know what I mean? Because it's them, it's men, boys who create children. We just carry. You know what I mean? So if we teach them and I talk about this on my Facebook, the power of the penis, because there's power in it, then I feel like, yeah, you know what I mean? And it's not just for pleasure. You're recreating. You know what I mean? So it's like I feel like once we tap into the educational piece and kind of get away from like saying, okay, sis, you can do it because you a strong black woman, but who want to be that? You know what I mean? Who want to be that by choice?
So, what would you say to that mom who's not celebrating pregnancy? Family's not happy, maybe her friends. One of my friends said, "Oh, well, maybe you should consider having an abortion." I was like, we haven't been that cool since, right? So, what would you say to those people in the moment? What can they do to kind of commemorate their pregnancy? Like for me, hindsight, I wish that I took a lot more pictures, even if it's what I found. You don't need a glamorous photo shoot. There's a woman in the Single Mom Defined Facebook group who's an artist. She paints pregnant bellies. It's just a beautiful thing. So I would say for somebody to take pictures to create those memories, even if it's not, that that um what you imagined, what you envisioned your pregnancy to be.
I would say live in the moment. Take all of the things that you experience, the positive things that you experience during pregnancy. Your baby feels everything that you experience. Talk to your baby, create that relationship while your child is still in the womb with you. And then, just live in the moments, be able to really be receptive of seeing your baby for the first time and being happy to know that you are having this blessing that you're going to bring into the world, and that that you have to set this foundation for from the very start of conception. So just live in the moment and take it all in.
Yeah, I second that, Raquel. And I would say the same thing you said and just say use your heart, don't worry about, Lauryn Hill has a beautiful song called Zion, that I actually listened to as I was getting an abortion. So that song, they told me to be smart, but I chose to use my heart. You know what I mean? And it's like, I would tell these young girls, use your heart. Don't worry about if it's the right choice, if it's not, because it's all going to come. It wouldn't have happened if it wasn't. You know what I mean? And it's all going to come full circle. You just have to believe, that all things come together, work together for the good for those, y'all know the rest, who love the Lord. But yes, I would definitely, and for the parents who don't support them, shame on you. Shame on you. Yep, shame on you.
Thank you so much, Kelly, for being so transparent and vulnerable and sharing that you had a story that ended in abortion and one story that ended in being a single mom without a support system. And now you're in this loving, supportive relationship. So that's so important. I think I would add to that what I would say is to letting people know that, like, in the moment, that moment doesn't last forever. Like, even if your daughter's dad doesn't want you to have the child, like, my daughter's dad is amazing to my daughter. Like, they go to Disney World. She goes on more trips than me. I'm living through her. Like, he bends over backward. So even if someone's like in their feelings and just experiencing all the things, that doesn't mean that that guy is going to be that way the whole time. So I just don't want people to think that we're bashing fathers, because many of the members in the group have really positive relationships with the fathers. We just want to share the good, the bad, and the ugly of our stories, and know that your story can be rewritten. So it doesn't matter how it started, it's really about how it ends. So, on that note, we are going to end the program today, but you can read lots of stories on Single Mom Defined. We're talking about everything from dating and relationships to work and money. We have a article on right now about someone who is a non-custodial mom, which is, another thing that's looked down upon, because she chose to give up the primary custody because she has a black boy and he's being raised primarily by the father. So make sure you log on to singlemomdefined.com to check out the stories, read our collection of personal essays, which features Kelli and Rikell. And until then, thank you, ladies, and good night.